Question number 6, what is the average rate of change of the function below on the interval from x equals 0 and x equals 2? So I'm given the function g of x equals 8 times 1/4 to the x. We also have this little reminder over here that the average rate of change is just the change in y values divided by the change in x values. So if you will remember, that's when we do our y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I'm given my x1 and my y and my x2, but I need to go find my y's. So I'm going to take my function and I'm going to plug in my two values. So when x equals 0, because that's my first x value, and then I'm going to do it again when x equals 2. So if you want to use your calculator, you can pull it up and just type in your function. So I'll kind of clear this out, and I've got 8 times, and then 1/4, and then that's raised to the 0 power, and that's just 8 for my first answer. And then I'll do it again, 1/4, this time raised to the second power, and I get 1/2. So there's my two answers. I'm going to go ahead and write those in. Okay, so those are my two y's. If it helps you, you can write them as ordered pairs. So you had 0, 8, and then you have 2, 1/2, and then you can just fill in your pieces. Okay, so those are my x1 and y1, and then these would be my x2 and my y2. And then I can plug those values into my formula. So my y2 is 1/2, my y1 is 8, and then my x's, my x2 is 2, and my x1 was 0. So when I evaluate my numerator, I'm going to have 1/2 minus 8, which is -7.5. Or you could write it as a decimal. You could do -7.5, and then 2 minus 0 is just 2. When I go to evaluate that, I'll show you what you could do here. I'm going to put it in as a decimal instead of a fraction just because it makes things a little bit easier. And when I divide that, -7.5 divided by 2, I get -3.75. And if you didn't get a decimal, if it gave you a fraction, then go ahead and convert it into a decimal, because on the test you need to write your answer in as a decimal, use all those decimal spaces that you get for your answer. Just type it in like you see it. So -3.75 is our average rate of change between those two values.